Hey friends, tonight I'm going to tell you a true crime story. Softly, picture this: mist clinging to pine trees, the crunch of gravel under your boots, and the sound of distant crows calling out over a gray ridgeline. The trail is empty, just you, the cold air, and something that doesn't feel quite right. So before you settle in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And feel free to share where you're listening from and what time it is in your part of the world. Now turn off the lights, let your fan hum in the background, and let's begin tonight's journey together. You start walking before sunrise. The woods are still wet with dew, and a pale fog blankets the trail like a veil over something secret. You're here because you need to breathe. That's what you tell yourself. It's early November in the Pacific Northwest, where forested ridges fold into each other like forgotten stories. You've chosen a trail that's less popular, mostly known to local hikers and rangers, not because it's dangerous, though that might be part of the appeal. You carry a small pack. Inside, water, almonds, a half smashed granola bar, a headlamp you almost forgot to charge, and your phone, still at 56% battery. There's no service up here anyway. The last time anyone saw you, at least according to the official record, you were buying trail mix at a gas station 20 miles out. Surveillance footage shows you smiling faintly, almost nervously, brushing your hair behind one ear. That's the last clear moment in the timeline. Later that day, your car is found at the trailhead, the passenger seat still warm, half a coffee still steaming in the cup holder. It looks like someone just stepped out for a moment and will be right back. But you never return. Now let's rewind a bit. You weren't exactly a local. You were renting a cabin on a short-term lease. One of those remote getaway packages. Disconnect to reconnect, it promised. You were off work for the week, and according to your friends, you hadn't told many people where you were going. That's the first odd thing. People always say you were cautious, a planner. You left notes for everything except this trip. The ranger who first found your car said the trail registry wasn't signed. That's weird too. You always signed in. Everyone does, especially when hiking solo. But this time, nothing. It's like you were never there. The investigation starts small, just a welfare check, then a call to the sheriff, then the search dogs arrive, then helicopters, then volunteers, no tracks, no shredded fabric, no phone pings, just fog, endless fog. It rolls in every evening around 4, so thick it drowns the trees and blurs the world into something unknowable. Locals begin to talk. They say it isn't the first time someone's gone missing on that trail. Back in 1984, a hiker named Mitchell Owens disappeared in almost the exact same spot. His pack was found hanging from a tree branch, untouched by weather. His boots sitting neatly side by side on a mossy rock. No sign of a struggle, no body, no answers. There's a theory, one that's passed quietly from ranger to ranger. They call it the Silence Bend. It's a particular turn in the trail where compasses glitch out, birds go quiet, and some hikers report losing time. Like they look down and suddenly it's 3 hours later. Others feel watched or hear footsteps behind them, heavy, measured, but when they turn around, the trail is empty. One ranger off the record said he once saw a figure standing just inside the fog. Still, no face, just presence. He blinked, and it was gone. You were last seen near that bend. No one knows what happened after, but someone or something was waiting. Days pass. Search teams comb the woods with orange vests and hand radios, calling your name into the mist. They don't find much. A footprint that might be yours, half washed out by rain. A thread of blue synthetic fabric caught on a bramble, possibly from your jacket, possibly not. One of the dogs sits and whines near the edge of the ridge, refusing to move forward. You, of course, are still gone. A local paper picks up the story. Hiker missing in Echo Ridge Forest. The comments section is filled with armchair theories. You staged your disappearance. You joined a cult. You're hiding from someone. One commenter claims to have seen a figure walking alone by the service road the morning after you vanished. Shoeless, arms swinging too wide, head tilted unnaturally to the side. They say they flashed their brights, but the figure didn't react, just kept walking into the woods. Police investigated. They found tire tracks and cigarette butts, but no figure, no you. Here's where the real oddities begin. Your phone, long assumed dead, pings a cell tower 30 miles south, 5 days after your last sighting. It pings again, 30 seconds later, this time from a tower even farther away. That's impossible, unless someone's driving fast, or unless someone's lying. Now the internet kicks into gear. Reddit threads spin up overnight, satellite maps, obscure folklore references. Theories range from abducted by serial killer to Slavic forest spirits to glitch in the matrix. There's even a thread suggesting that the forest itself moves, that trails change. One user says, "My brother and I hiked that path in 2019. We came to a fork that wasn't on the map. When we turned around an hour later, the fork was gone. They never posted again." Another user, account deleted, uploads a blurry photo. It shows a shape deep in the trees, humanoid but wrong. No face, no detail, just shadows and the shape of something standing upright, watching. Comments demand to know, is it real? Is that you? But the photo vanishes the next day. Here's a historical truth tucked in the margins. In the 1950s, this area was used for Cold War radio testing, shortwave interference, coded transmissions, experiments in signal disruption. Some believe the forest is still carrying echoes from that time, literal echoes, bouncing around inside the mist. Sound engineers have visited, trying to trace the source of a strange frequency recorded in the area, a low, pulsing hum only detectable through analog equipment. They call it Channel 7, but no one knows what broadcasts it. Back to you. By the second week of the search, volunteers start dropping out. One woman claims she kept hearing her own voice calling back at her, not echoing, mocking. A man claims to have seen a tent deep in the woods, pale blue, just like yours. But when he got close, there was nothing there, just the smell of something metallic. Still, no body, no phone, no trace, just a forest that keeps its secrets and fog that closes behind you like a curtain. And somewhere out there, your story has started to bleed into others. People come to the trail now, not just to hike, but to feel something, to chase the unknown, to disappear just for a while. Weeks turn into months. Your family posts updates online. They leave your favorite jacket in a box by the trailhead, hoping the scent might draw you back. But the forest stays silent. It's December now, and the snow begins to fall in light, uncommitted flurries. The trail ices over. Most volunteers stop coming. The case is no longer breaking news. It's drifting into cold case territory, except for the ones who won't let it go. A podcaster named Dylan picks up your story. His voice is warm, steady, a little too excited. He interviews locals, former rangers, conspiracy theorists. In one episode, he plays a voicemail supposedly left from your phone. It's mostly static, but at the 10-second mark, there's a low voice whispering something like, "Don't follow," or maybe "Don't hollow." Hard to tell. Audio quality is garbage, but it gives people chills. Now here's your offbeat detail. During the initial search, one of the volunteers claimed to have found a deer skull hanging from a tree, upside down, hollowed out, filled with dried lavender and something red. Local law enforcement dismissed it as prank or ritual, but here's the strange part. It was wired with copper, like an antenna. No one ever claimed responsibility. Let's come back to you. There's a theory circulating now, one that's oddly reasonable compared to the others. It says that maybe you did leave on your own, that maybe the forest wasn't a trap, but an escape hatch. You were burned out, quietly grieving a breakup. Your online search history included things like how to disappear legally and solo hiking for beginners. You were thoughtful, private, and maybe that day you just kept walking, off trail, past the marked trees, past the maps, into the part of the woods that no one charts. There's a kind of logic to it, a melancholic grace. You found peace in leaving. But then, why the pings? Why the deer skull? Why the footprints that went in but never came out? There's an open question here, and that brings us to our academic debate for this act. Can a place remember? Not in the scientific sense, maybe, but in a folkloric one. The idea that some landscapes absorb emotion, trauma, intention, that certain woods become heavy with memory. Echo Ridge, where you vanished, sits on land once used for indigenous ritual, then clear-cut logging, then military testing. Each layer soaked into the soil like old blood. Maybe that bend in the trail, the one they call the Silence Bend, is more than a trick of topography. Maybe it's a thin place, a seam between worlds, and maybe you slipped through it. Maybe you're still out there, but you're not walking anymore. You're listening, you're waiting, or perhaps you've simply become part of the fog. You don't know when the dreams begin. Maybe it's after the first night you sleep in the forest. Not on purpose. Your phone dies, the light fades faster than expected, and the trail seems different. The map doesn't help. You keep turning it, trying to make sense of the shapes. The path you took earlier is gone, so you build a little nest of pine needles under a cedar and close your eyes. That night, you dream of a woman humming a lullaby you almost recognize. She's just out of view. The melody stumbles in places, like she's forgotten how it ends. When you wake up, your pack is zipped shut. You didn't do that. And your granola bar is missing. You try to backtrack in the morning, but the sun is too bright, too white. It bleaches the sky and flattens the world into a sheet of colorless noise. No bird song, no wind, just that low, pulsing hum. You think about the history of this place, not just the Cold War testing, there's more. During the 1930s, a series of forest disappearances was recorded in this county. Rangers would find abandoned campsites, untouched food, boots lined neatly by the fire pit. One report claimed a man named Harold Chris walked into the forest and came back 4 days later, different. He refused to speak, wouldn't eat anything that had been in a plastic wrapper, only wore wool, never synthetic. When pressed, he'd whisper, "The colors lie. You have to see the shapes underneath." Then, in 1941, he hanged himself in his barn. The rope had been braided with human hair. That story isn't on Wikipedia. You found it in a Xeroxed booklet left behind at a trail shelter, typewritten pages, no cover. It was titled Echoes from the Other Tree Line. Someone underlined the passage about Harold in red. You took the booklet with you. You're not sure why. Maybe it made you feel less alone. You walk now not to get out, but to understand. That's what you tell yourself. You're not panicking. You're investigating. The forest seems to rearrange behind you, like the world is turning in slow, invisible spirals. You mark your steps with rocks, branches, initials carved into bark. But the marks don't stay. You come across the same clearing 3 times in one afternoon, even though you've been walking in a straight line. At least you think it's a straight line. Maybe it's a spiral. Maybe it's a snare. Here's your next strange detail. At twilight, you find a small wooden sign nailed to a tree. It simply says, "No voice beyond this point." Below it, etched into the bark with something sharp, are 4 vertical lines and 1 crossing diagonal, a tally mark. You keep walking anyway, not because you're brave, because you're tired. And now the philosophical tug of war begins. If no one finds you, are you still lost, or do you become something else? A myth, a warning, a whisper in a ranger's memory. You wonder if this place has always fed off people like you, people who move through the world quietly, unnoticed, trying not to burden anyone with their sadness. The forest is not cruel, but it is indifferent. It doesn't steal you, it accepts you, and in some strange, unspeakable way, you feel accepted. That's the part you don't tell anyone. Not that they're listening anymore. Days blur. You start counting time by meals. When you find something edible, it's a new day. You've learned the difference between good moss and bad moss. You know which mushrooms to avoid. You even spotted a cluster of bright orange berries, which you didn't eat but crushed between your fingers. The juice smelled like copper. At night, you try not to sleep too deeply. The forest is full of movement, not animals exactly, but impressions. Shifts in pressure, like something large has just stepped away. You don't look behind you anymore. You've accepted the rules. One morning, you find a scarf tied to a branch, not yours. Pale yellow, polka dotted. A name stitched into the edge. Claire. You stare at it for a long time. Claire wasn't mentioned in any report. But that doesn't mean she wasn't here. Maybe you're not the first. Maybe you're just the most recent chapter in a book no one finishes. Later that day, you find an old Polaroid tucked into a crack in a tree. The image is faded, but it shows a woman standing next to a tent. Her eyes are white, not glowing, just empty. Someone has written on the back in looping pen, "Not the first, not the last, keep walking." Historically, this place was once mapped as Dead Hollow by 19th century trappers. They abandoned the name after too many disappearances. In fact, an 1877 journal by fur trader Isaac Lemoyne describes a place where fog is shaped like people and people forget their own names. He later turned himself in for a murder he claimed never happened. The jailhouse log notes that he smiled constantly, even while sleeping. The charges were dropped. He disappeared before his release. The name of the town he was last seen in? Echo Ridge. Your thoughts begin to shift. You're forgetting street names, faces, the sound of your phone's ringtone. It's not frightening, not exactly. It's just soft, like the tide washing over a sandcastle, little by little. You find comfort in patterns, certain trees, a rock shaped like a sleeping cat, the place where the wind always smells faintly of cinnamon. You start humming the lullaby from your dream. You don't remember learning it. It remembers you. Then one day, something changes. You see smoke. It's thin, curling upward between the trees. Not like wildfire smoke, controlled. A campfire. You run toward it, stumbling, branches tearing at your clothes. Your legs shake with adrenaline and hunger and something else. You burst into the clearing, but it's empty. Just ash, still warm. A ring of stones, and in the center, another Polaroid. This one is of you, sleeping. Here's a philosophical wedge to chew on. Is the observer always separate from the story? In normal life, maybe yes. You go to the movies, you read the headlines, you listen to podcasts like this one. But out here, you're the myth, and the myth is watching you. That night, you hear something breathing outside your makeshift shelter. You don't move, you just listen. It breathes slowly, rhythmically, like an animal or a machine mimicking an animal. Then it begins to hum the lullaby, your lullaby. You wake up at dawn shivering. The fire you built is just a ring of damp black stones. You try to convince yourself that the humming last night was a dream, a trick of the wind, maybe your own breathing distorted through the trees. But when you unzip your coat, you find a flower tucked into your shirt pocket, fresh, damp with dew. You didn't put it there, and you haven't seen anything blooming in weeks. That day, you try something different. Instead of walking forward, you walk backward, literally, step by step, retracing your prints from the day before. You think maybe if you undo your steps, the forest will let you out. It feels stupid, but you're willing to try anything. After half an hour, you return to the clearing with the ashes. But now, the stones are gone. Only a single word is scratched into the dirt. Stay. In the 1970s, a linguist named Dr. Nora Ellsworth studied disappearing dialects in isolated Appalachian regions. One of her papers noted an undocumented language fragment overheard from a hermit living alone in the Pacific Northwest. He spoke of a place where people unnamed themselves. He said, "When the forest accepts you, it forgets your name so you can finally rest." She dismissed it as metaphor, but one of her grad students later vanished while camping alone. His tent was found zipped shut from the inside. A recorder inside played only static, except for the final few seconds where a voice whispers, "He remembered." So we sent him back. You wonder if that's what's happening to you, if forgetting is part of being accepted, if memory is the thing that keeps you tethered and losing it is the final release. You test yourself. What's your last name? What city did you grow up in? What was the name of your first pet? You know the answers are in there, but they feel dusty, like objects in a room you haven't opened in years. Late that afternoon, you find something new, a cave, not a dramatic gaping cavern, just a narrow opening beneath a stone outcrop, partly hidden by ferns. Inside, it's quiet, comfortably so. There are markings on the walls, scratches, deliberate but not language, spirals, figures, eyes. In the center is a circle of stones unlit, but you can still smell smoke. And resting atop a smooth slab is a folded piece of fabric, your jacket, the one you lost 3 days ago when it snagged on a branch and vanished. But it's clean, dry, smells faintly of lavender. You take it. You don't question it anymore. And here's your last philosophical tug for this act. Is rescue the same thing as escape? Because that night you dream again of someone calling your name, a voice you love but can't place. You wake up and hear footsteps. This time they're slow, deliberate. Something is walking toward your shelter. You hold your breath and then you hear your own voice calling from the woods. It says your name, not like a question, like a warning. You don't answer, you can't. Because how do you respond to yourself? The voice is distant, maybe 30 feet beyond the tree line, but the cadence, the tone, the little crack when it hits the second syllable, that's yours. You know it. It calls your name again, and this time it's softer, more urgent. You curl deeper into your shelter, heart pounding so loudly it echoes in your ears. The voice stops, and then, so quietly, it says, "You're not supposed to look." You stay like that until dawn. The forest is gentle in the morning. Sunlight filters through frost-dusted needles, and the fog hangs low like silk. But something has changed. You've stopped trying to find your way out. Now you're just trying to find the rules. You stumble upon a wooden structure later that day, half buried in ferns and soil. Maybe it was a hunting blind once, or an old ranger post. There's graffiti carved into the planks. Some come to leave, some stay to keep watch. Inside, you find a tin box. It contains a compass, a photograph of someone sleeping in a hammock, and a torn page from what looks like a diary. Day 27. The forest doesn't take everyone, just the ones who ask the wrong question. You close the box and don't touch anything else. You begin to feel observed, not in a hostile way, just seen. The same way the trail once felt indifferent, it now feels attentive, as if it's waiting for you to make a decision. Your dreams start looping. The humming woman, the white eyed girl from the Polaroid, the deer skull with copper wires, they all appear together, standing around a fire you don't remember building. They don't speak, but they seem expectant. Let's talk about our last strange historical layer. Before Act 3, in 1928, an amateur cartographer named Jonah Harker tried to chart this section of forest. His hand-drawn maps were strangely geometric, too perfect. Triangles, spirals, repeating angles that didn't align with any natural formations. One corner of his map was marked only with a question mark and the phrase, "It loops when no one watches." Harker went blind 3 years later. When asked what happened, he said, "I saw the shape too long." Back to you. You find another message carved into a tree, deeper and cleaner than the others. The fog will forget you if you forget yourself. So you try. You stop thinking about your job, your rent, your inbox. You let go of your name for a little while. You hum the lullaby without wondering where you learned it. And the forest softens. You come across a pond you've never seen before. The surface is still, dark, reflective. You lean over and look. You expect to see your face, but there's nothing. No reflection, just fog. And maybe that's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Maybe the forest doesn't trap you, it erases you, not violently, gently, lovingly, so that eventually there's no difference between you and the trail beneath your feet, between your heartbeat and the sound of wind in the pines, between your breath and the fog that swallows everything. You stop walking, not because you're tired, though you are, but because something inside you finally settles, like a snow globe after its last shake. You sit beneath a tree whose bark feels warm, almost like skin. You press your back against it, close your eyes, and listen. The forest doesn't sound empty anymore. It sounds full. You hear breathing, not yours. Branches cracking, not from weight, but from intention. And laughter, just once. A child's giggle, deep in the trees. You don't open your eyes. Time is fluid now. You sleep when it's light, wake when it's dark, eat when you find food, dream constantly. In one dream, you're standing in a circle of people, all of them wearing your face. They take turns whispering things you almost understand, recipes, memories, numbers, a song you think you learned in childhood. Each time you try to speak, they turn away. When you wake, your hands are muddy. There's a small pile of stones beside you, carefully stacked. You didn't build it, or maybe you did. You're not the only one here. One afternoon, you spot another figure through the mist, tall, wrapped in blankets or maybe vines. They don't move like a person. You call out. They turn toward you. but they have no face, just a smooth plane of skin, like someone forgot to finish making them. You don't run. They raise a hand, not threatening, just acknowledging. And then they're gone. In 2002, a fire burned through part of this forest. Crews reported strange echoes on their radios. One man claimed he kept hearing his own voice say, "I don't want to leave yet." The fire stopped at a stream, abruptly, like it had reached a line it wasn't allowed to cross. Satellite images show an odd pattern in the regrowth, a ring of untouched trees in the center of the burn zone. The same shape as the cave you found, the same curve as the trail you walked, a perfect spiral. You find a journal. It's wrapped in canvas and sealed with wax. The cover reads only exit log. Inside are pages and pages of names, some crossed out, some faded. At the very end, in faint pencil, your name. Below it, a question. Leave, and two empty boxes. Yes, square. No square. You stare at the boxes for hours, not metaphorically, literally. The page feels heavy in your hands, like it's watching your reaction. You never check either box, but when you wake the next day, the page is blank, and the journal is gone. Now the forest is different, not brighter, not safer, but quieter. Peaceful even. Thus, you follow a trail that wasn't there yesterday. Moss lines the edges. The trees lean away as you pass, like they're making space. At the end is a bench, just a simple wooden bench. You sit, and for the first time you feel seen, not watched, not studied, just seen and accepted. That night, you sleep deeply, the kind of sleep that feels like being held. And when you dream, the lullaby finally finishes. It ends on a note that feels like goodbye, or maybe welcome home. You don't wake up right away, not because something holds you back, because something lets you stay. The dreams are quiet now, warm. You see things that never happened but feel true. Your childhood bedroom filled with morning sun, a dog you never owned curled at your feet, someone brushing your hair gently behind your ear. You can't remember their name, but it doesn't matter. You remember the feeling. When you do wake, it's to birdsong. You blink slowly. The bench is still beneath you. The trees still sway. But something has changed again. The trail ahead is visible, clear. You could walk it. You could leave. You feel a strange weight in your chest at the thought. Not fear, not sadness. Just a question. What's waiting for me on the other side of the fog? You try to speak your name aloud. The sound comes out wrong. Not a scream, not a whisper, something else entirely. The syllables slip away from you like wet stones. You smile, not because it's funny, because it's expected. You understand now. You weren't just lost, you were being rewritten. Here's a final historical fragment to hold on to. In 1863, a missionary named Edmund Bell documented a group of indigenous people who spoke of a gray place in the forest where voices were traded. They claimed that if you stayed too long, your voice became part of the wind, your face part of the fog, and your thoughts no longer just your own. Bell never returned from his second expedition. Only his journal was found, pages damp but legible. The final entry: "It welcomed me." You wonder if anyone will find your things, your car, your empty cabin, if someone will eventually trace your steps to this bench, this trail, this cave, this spiral. Maybe they'll hear your footsteps in the trees. Maybe they'll feel your breath in the mist. Maybe they'll sit where you sat and wonder who you were. And maybe you'll whisper to them too. You find a tree etched with dozens of names, overlapping like tree rings. One of them is yours, not the name on your driver's license, the one you lost long before you entered these woods, the name no one else ever knew, the name the forest gave back to you. You walk. The trail glows faintly now, like dusk trapped in the soil. You don't know where it leads, but that doesn't matter. You are no longer trying to escape. You are part of the place now, not trapped, not gone, just here. The trees breathe with you. The fog wraps around you like a blanket. And somewhere, back in the world, a podcaster is recording a final update. A candle burns beside your photograph. Someone clicks play, and a whisper slips through the speaker, too soft to notice at first. But if they listen closely, they'll hear you say, "I was never really lost. I was just becoming." It's time to let your breathing slow. You've walked the trail. You've seen the fog. You've heard the voices that don't always speak in words. And now you're safe. The story is behind you, like footsteps fading in pine needles. There's no need to chase answers tonight. No need to untangle what was real and what was whispered. Let the mystery sit quietly with you. Let your muscles soften, your eyelids grow heavier. Imagine lying down in a small, quiet clearing, somewhere deep in the forest, where no one can find you unless you want to be found. The moss is soft beneath your back. The air smells like cedar and smoke and something sweet, like old books. Above you, the stars pulse through drifting mist. A lullaby hum through the branches, familiar but impossible to name. And for the first time in a while, you feel known, not by a person, not even by yourself, but by the space around you. The trail remembers where you've been. The fog no longer hides from you, it holds you. The silence isn't empty anymore. It's restful. It's home. So as you sink into the stillness, you can let go of the questions, the maps, the headlines. You don't need them here. All you need is this soft, steady breath, in and out, and the quiet certainty that you are exactly where you're meant to be. Maybe someday we'll know the truth, but for now, sleep well.